Hey, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Leigh. I'm very privileged to have Councilman Nate Hartman join me. Hello, Nate.
Hello, hello. How are we?
And we're going to have a very fun conversation. Nate is going to talk about tea. He's going to talk about the fact there's a guitar behind him.
There
He's
is.
going to talk
Two.
about two guitars. He's going to talk about what it's like to be a council person and how he came to live in an historically significant property. And I'm going to tell at least one or two jokes from this 1980s joke book I found at the library today. Very excited
Awesome.
about that.
Awesome.
So, Nate, the floor is yours. You need to tell everyone everything they need to know about you in a compressed amount of time.
Awesome. Definitely my favorite thing to do is talk all about myself. Um, I grew up on the West Coast, had no political aspirations, really had no aspirations. I was the second of five kids, small logging town, homeschooled, kind of a 10-mile radius of where I was born, where my grandparents were born, where my parents were born, kind of thing. Turned out I was a terrible student, not a great kid, and a terrible employee, and that sort of cascaded over an accelerated 20 years into working for myself, and ended up working in tech. West Coast was sort of Seattle area was sort of tech hub back when I was at the beginning of my career, and got opportunities to start companies, grow companies around the country, and with time got a chance to travel. Postponed family until just about 5 years ago when I met my wife out west and then followed her out east. My stepson, my 9-year-old stepson, is profoundly deaf, and that led us to a hunt during COVID for great deaf schools that we could live close to where he could get the kind of education that we wanted him to have. Believe it or not, Frederick, Maryland made the list, and there I was coming from newly from the West Coast out to the Boston area, still getting my Eastern Seaboard bearings as a left coast kid. And I had been to Baltimore. I had not been to Frederick. I had certainly not been to West Virginia. My sort of connection to West Virginia was the same thing it is for most West Coast kids: Civil War history, John Denver, and bad jokes. And so when my real estate agent said, "Have you guys considered West Virginia?" I laughed, and and it wasn't a nice laugh. It was the kind of laugh that somebody from the West Coast laughs about West Virginia. And but for some reason, we decided to look at properties over here, mostly just to see what West Virginia looked like and if it was like what I had in my head. And I couldn't have been more wrong. We crossed the river, like so many people I think have done, going all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, and just sort of the bug hit us as soon as we came down past Harper's Ferry and into what I call, like, the Panhandle West Virginia version, not deep West, not West Virginia, but this corner, and just fell in love. I've always been a river kid, not an ocean kid, even though I grew up on the coast. And there were two of them right there, and both my wife and I, small town kids, her from the East Coast, me from the West Coast, were it was just love at first sight. So we rolled into Charlestown, and it just was sort of like things falling into place, one thing after another, after another, after another. Then, of course, we'll talk about this later, but we found our house, our home, and fell in love again. And then we flew back to Boston and said, we're crazy, right? Like, nobody from Boston moves to West Virginia. And then we did the soul searching, and we're honest with ourselves about the fact that we're really small town kids from upstate New York and Shelton, Washington, a tiny logging town, and really we wanted to live somewhere like this. And that was 5 years ago, and we like to laugh that this is where we'll die. So hopefully we get to do that, and not anytime soon. But that is the accelerated version, the compressed version of how we got here.
Excellent. Thank you for that brief rundown. And I knew that you were from the West Coast, but for some reason I was thinking that you were from like Idaho. So not actually the coast, just the western
No, no,
state.
Washington State, I should clarify. Yeah.
Yes. So now I know. I have no Washington State stories to share,
Okay.
unfortunately. I do have an Oregon story to share.
Close enough.
Well, yeah, which is sort of, and have a California story to share, but we can perhaps do those at a later time. So, a couple of questions, sort of about your background.
Yeah.
You arrived in Jefferson County, and what sort of was your immediate thought? Was it, this is, you sort of touched upon it, but this is much different than I thought it would be, or this is like a place I came from, or what were you thinking?
Yeah. So my wife will tell you I'm terrible with directions, as in like compass orientation. So it always takes me a minute to figure out where things are in relation to things, and that was sort of my small town upbringing. That was a huge struggle in Boston. You're in Boston, and um, it's like just one of the worst cities to get around in. No offense to Boston. It's a beautiful old city, tons of history, tons of architecture, lots going on, tons of science and industry, but a nightmare for a driver like me who likes to really kind of memorize where things are, since I don't do the whole directions. I'm not one of those automatic people who's like, over on East Oak Street, a quarter mile down on there. I just don't, my brain doesn't do that. Um, so at first, it was just all upside down, right? Just trying to figure out where I am in relation to things. It helped that we had spent a year on the East Coast in Boston. Obviously, up north, it's a lot colder. And down here, it's warmer. But I had already fallen in love with the concept. So let me back up. For anybody who's listening or watching who hasn't spent significant time in the Pacific Northwest where I grew up, it's like London. You know the sun is up there, but that's it. It's a faith-based concept that somewhere up there is a celestial object that generates vitamin D, because you don't really see it. And out here on the East Coast, and I'm lumping the Mid-Atlantic here, where we are, into the East Coast for myself. The sun is out a lot, so it's just a, for you guys that were born and raised here, I think sometimes you take that for granted. That like, even on a day with a thunderstorm, you're probably going to see the sun and that blue sky with the fleecy clouds, and the sky just goes up forever and you just see it. So I was hooked. I was never going back to the West Coast. And then I came here and it was full of trees and vines and wildness, but you also had, the architecture, the history. Obviously there's this particular part of the Panhandle, there's a ton of history. I'm a bit of a junkie. And the people were so nice. The town was the right size. Charlestown was the perfect size for us. It had enough, and it was proximate to DC, to the airports. At the time I was still working, so a lot of air travel. But you could come home and be in a little town still, and that was, it turns out, critically important to both of us, and something for us with our kids that has become non-negotiable. It's great to be close to the cities, whether that's Leesburg, whether that's DC, whether that's Frederick, Winchester, Martinsburg, etc. But here, it's still small town. It feels like small town. You can go to the same shops. They know your name. They remember your kids. You know their kids. That stuff's really, that tangible stuff is really important. That community is really important to us. So it was pretty instantaneous. We're like looking at a house and the neighbors are introducing themselves and asking, what we thought about our tour. And for some people that might be nosy, but for us it was super welcoming. Coming from Boston, where it's like the cold shoulder of America, it was really just warm.
So I had never thought about the amount of sunlight that we get on a regular basis juxtaposed against other parts of the country or abroad. I, for one, try to avoid as much direct sunlight
No,
as
I know.
both because I take a medication that says avoid sunlight on the
Yes.
bottle, but then
Okay. I
also just because
understand.
for my whole life I have been like that weird person who finds the outdoors to be hellacious on a
And
regular basis. But
no judgment.
I had never thought about being able to relocate, which I never would, within the country and to be able to experience the wonderfulness that is British weather.
Yeah,
Um,
you can.
I think I would be best suited to live near the Shetland Islands,
Okay.
where it's like between 40 and 70 degrees year round. The wind would blow your wig off if you wore a wig, and it's just stormy all the time.
And that's awesome in doses. And you should definitely do that. It would suit you perfectly. But I did almost, I think when we moved, I was 39. I was 40. I'm 45. 39 when I left the West Coast. So I feel like I put my time in and I was ready. And certainly there are other portions of the West Coast where the sun does shine, case in point, California, that I could have relocated to. But, I was from that 10 square mile radius. And so I was kind of comfortable there. And jumping out here was huge quality of life improvement.
Now, I have a friend who lives in Palm Springs,
Yes.
and that just sounds horrible because he talks about, oh, I went outside at 9 a.m. and it's 100 degrees. And he is a photographer who does a lot of real estate photography. So to me, having to stand outside and take photographs with no trees of a sort of
Hey, there are
um,
some trees. They're just the palm kind.
yeah. I would need to hire an assistant to just hold
Hold an umbrella.
a
People
black
do it.
umbrella over my head.
Yep.
Yeah. Or I would figure out some way to do wonderful nighttime photography of homes to entice people to buy them. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but
Lots of
I've
lots of
always wanted to
mixers and
visit
sprinklers.
Louisiana, but I assumed I would melt if I went there.
I've been to Louisiana one time in 1996, fresh into adulthood. It was the first trip I took by myself. Um, I was broke, slept in an apartment over the top of a bar, like your classic like coming of age, or I guess just post coming of age. But like getting out there and like kind of seeing that part of the world, and it was super awesome. I mean, there were some parts that were less than awesome, but it was not glamorous the way I thought. I got to see it on a shoestring budget with a friend who was on a shoestring budget. Had a blast. Worth going for sure. That was before Katrina. We got out of town ahead of a different hurricane. I forget which one. A smaller hurricane. Ivan. What was in '96? Anyway, very exciting. Closest I've ever been to a hurricane. um, but yeah, Palm Springs, hot, dry, lots of old people. Kind of fun. Like, if you're under like 50, you're a rare breed, and all the old people will hang out. Oh, I was not an old person the last time I was there. Now I'd probably be. I'm pushing that envelope, but they like to dote on you, and super fun retirement community. Lots of Hollywood history. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool, but not cool. It's hot, but cool.
Yes. So and we don't know each other super well, but I feel like you may already have either heard this about me or deduced it for yourself. I am someone who oddly becomes friends either before or after I establish a friendship with someone my own age. It's like someone who I was friends
Yeah.
with at college. I somehow establish at times a closer relationship with one of their parents.
You steal the old people, don't you?
I do. And I don't think that I do it intentionally, but I have found myself, in fact, I have a good friend who she and her husband were friends from college, very, very good friends. And I find myself actually texting and communicating with her mother sometimes more than I do with she or her husband. And it's mainly about cats. But anyway, do you want to guess or try to guess where I went on my first like big boy trip when I was 18?
That's a great question. Yes. Can we do it 20 question style? Give me like 3 questions.
I don't know what that means.
Well, like, give me more than one try to
Sure.
work my way. Okay. Was it in the U.S.?
No.
Oh, see, that makes it really hard. So Europe. Berlin.
No.
Oh, one more. London. We talked
Yes.
about it earlier. Was it really?
Well, I flew into London, but I
Okay,
mean,
that counts.
okay. Yeah,
Where
I
were
mean,
you going?
so I had this grand idea that, so first of all, and I'll make this brief because this is about you, not about me, but this podcast. So I
My,
really,
my name is not in the title of the podcast, Lee.
well, it's only because it rhymes with tea. If it were tea with Nate, that would just kind of be like,
That would not work at all.
um, You could do Late with Nate,
Could.
like a PM podcast, and I could come on that one because it's after dark.
Okay. Perfect.
Um,
And yeah,
so
be too sunny.
yes, I had this whole idea that I wanted to go to school in England for college, and was accepted to two universities in England. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, but I wanted to take a year off before going to college because I got really involved in politics. And the summer of the year I graduated, into the fall, my dad had a perforated ulcer
Ooh.
and didn't actually go to the hospital until he was coughing up blood. So spent like, I don't know, 3 weeks in the hospital, like off work for 3 months. It was a long recovery. And that really kind of spooked me to the
Yeah,
point where I
sure.
thought, I'm not sure if I feel comfortable leaving. But at the same time, I'd gotten so involved in politics and I loved it so much. I'm like, how could I not continue to stay here? So the next summer, so it was actually no, I take that back. So I went before, so I'm getting all confused. I went before he got sick. So this was supposed to be like, my graduation trip, whatever.
Sure.
And my parents had friends in Cornwall. So my idea was to fly into London, go down to Hastings, and then go all around the coast to Cornwall and then go back up. So I think my dad, less so than my mom, but they were absolutely terrified because I'd never traveled internationally. I was,
Sure.
I'm at best weird now. And when I was 18, I wasn't, I think I could pass for less weird, but at the same time, there's sort of like, he can tell us who all 100 U.S. senators are, but directions are not his strong point.
See, everybody has different strengths. It's okay.
Yep. So, like you, although now I've gotten better about that. But an example, I got onto the subway, got on the right line, but going in the wrong direction. And where it says don't lean against these doors, I leaned and got my backpack caught in the door. So then when the doors opened, I was standing in such a way that I thought, okay, I just turn around and go out. And I turned around and couldn't move because my backpack was stuck. But a very nice lady who was from Japan, who had to be at least 70, helped me extract it from the subway, and I went on my way.
See,
So
I've never been to London.
we'll go
Yeah, deal.
tomorrow.
I'd love to.
I mean, how can you not?
I know.
Sherlock Holmes Museum, I mean, that's worth it alone.
Go see the tower. Go eat the terrible food. The food can't all be that bad. That's what I always say. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I have weird food tastes anyway, but I ate a lot of like, uh, there's a store called Boots, and they sell some food. So I was basically eating like convenience store food a
okay,
lot of the time I was there because um, the next time I went, I stayed in London for about 2.5 weeks, and my goal was to see everything in the British Museum,
oh wow,
which is not
yeah,
possible.
right.
But I stayed 2 blocks from it, so like every day, that was my mission. I had to go to the British Museum in the morning, and then go see something else in the afternoon. Um, so it didn't involve a lot of trying local cuisine.
Okay, fair, fair.
Um, but I like peas, so
Then you're
that's a
in,
big thing. But I
right?
don't like gravy.
That
So,
makes it harder
yep,
because I think gravy is like a building block.
it is. And I don't know. I don't like salt. Like I don't really cook, but when I do cook, I refuse to use salt
Okay.
because I just don't like it. So I think I would struggle with
Yeah, I
it.
agree. We would have to pack, if we do this, we'll have to pack you some food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my one vice, as we've explored on other episodes, I'm not one for recreational drugs. I don't really drink. I don't smoke. My one vice is Coca-Cola,
Okay.
and the recipe is definitely different in Europe. So we'll also have to pack a
A
supply.
separate suitcase just
Yeah,
for American Coca-Cola.
yeah, and it
Understood.
has to be refrigerated. So
Okay.
first class all the way. So I promised you this, and I hope it wasn't um, more of a threat. But I would like to pose one of two questions. The second one will be later
Okay.
about one of the all-time great American shows, which doesn't quite get the amount of recognition it should. The
Okay.
OC,
Okay.
that wonderful,
Yes.
2004, 2005, 2006 show. For anyone who hasn't watched it, go Google it and then watch it all. Are you Googling it right now?
No, I am
Okay.
not.
I just
But
wanted to
I
make sure.
am nervous that I am not going to know the answer to this.
Okay, no, it'll be fine. So there is a wonderful scene in which they are going to Tijuana,
Okay.
although they lied and said they're going to a comic book convention. So it's the four main characters. Also, that rekindled my love with Land Rovers. I mean, they were driving a Range Rover, but it's close enough. So, what is the all-time best quotation from the show from
Oh
when
God.
Seth is driving that's been on like T-shirts and everything?
I told you I was worried about this. You're going to have to help me.
So it involves nuns. Does that do anything for you?
No.
Okay. Well, do you
Like
want
I
me?
have some things I remember from the OC, but I was worried you were going to get me with this.
Well, this is the harder of the two,
Okay.
and
It's the
there's so many situations in which I've used this quotation, and I might be slightly. It's true, I have, and I can provide you affidavits to that effect.
Well,
Um,
ideally, I will work it into my repertoire since I don't know the answer. So I'll try to use it at a council meeting or something. If
no,
it.
I was just about to say I expect to see it in the minutes
Okay.
of the next
Okay.
council meeting, um, and so I may get it slightly wrong in the verbiage, but they're driving.
Okay.
Seth, who is like this kind of like skater slash emo kid, is listening to Death Cab for Cutie in the car, and Summer, who is like his
Crush.
crush, yeah, unrequited at that time, unrequited, whatever. And she believes he should be driving faster, so she says, "You know what? Who gets passed by a van full of nuns? Cohen gets passed by a van full of nuns."
Man full of nuns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there have been multiple times where I believe that, huh?
I'm laughing. I'm just thinking about using it. I'm jumping ahead to when I use this in a meeting and how I can work it in.
Well, I mean,
My brain
and
works.
I would like to lobby for a speeding change, and you could work in somewhere and say, you know what, I heard someone got passed by a van full of nuns, so we need to up that speed by 2 miles.
We.
Yeah.
I think I could make that happen. I will take a note, um, and see if I can do this. I've done this in the past, so
I'm going to
maybe
check in with.
everybody can just tune in. All the council meetings are streamed live and recorded for posterity, and see if you can find this. See if I actually drop a van full of nuns um, at my next meeting. I'm writing it on my hand, which my wife hates, but when you have ADD like I do, it's a really great way to sort of get it from there to here. It's on my hand, van full of nuns to here, and then see if I can't use that
So,
at the least appropriate time during the meeting.
well, and I know other council members too, so I'll be asking for
Okay.
a report.
Okay.
If you put your hand on a Xerox machine, does it Xerox what you wrote?
It would, I think, but wouldn't it be backward?
Yes,
I can't remember.
probably.
I'm supposed to know this. I can't remember. I have a little multifunction unit I could test it on, but I'm also going to add a reminder on my phone just to see
About the nuns or about your hand?
about the nuns.
Or
No,
both. Okay,
my
good.
hand will be. I'll see it a couple times, and then my daughter will be like, "Daddy, what's on your hand?" And then I'll explain, and then she won't know what a nun is, and this is going to be awesome. It's a learning opportunity for everyone.
It is, and you know how old is your daughter?
She is 3.
Perfect age. So immediately when she says, "What is a nun?" you cue up Sister Act
Perfect.
and just put her in front of that. As again discussed in a previous podcast, I had some sort of weird childhood obsession with Whoopi Goldberg, and
Okay.
I think it came from that film. And when I went to Catholic prep school, I'm like, where are the nuns? They're supposed to be singing sassy nuns.
It's a sad sight different in real life, isn't it?
There were no nuns, and we didn't revitalize a community.
No.
Um, you know, so I think we've gotten to the point where we have our tea break
Okay, excellent.
because it's tea with Leigh.
It is.
So as I told you, I was very late in getting home. It's like 8:30 now.
It is.
So I had to work late, all sorts of stuff. So I didn't have time to put a lot of thought into the type of tea I was going to have. So I just grabbed what was available, and it's a pomegranate tea.
Nice. Not too much caffeine for late at night.
Well, that doesn't seem to do much to me anymore. I think
Okay,
it's because
perfect.
I've killed my system with
Yeah,
McDonald's, Coca-Cola. Like someday I'll just be like cut down the middle and everything inside will be like
the
tar shape.
logo.
Um, they do something. Anyway, it's not important. So that is the tea I'm having. It's still hot. And as was established a few minutes ago, I like neither sunlight nor heat. So I have not had it yet,
Yes, understood.
but it's
Understood.
cooling. So what is your favorite drink, first of all?
Let me follow up your question with a question. So, are you actually a tea guy, or did you incorporate tea because it rhymed?
No, I like tea.
Okay.
And I like the British.
Fair.
Um, and I didn't realize there was another person who currently has a podcast called Tea with Leigh.
Yeah, but he's not famous, so it doesn't matter.
But it's a lady,
Or she, even
and
better.
I'm not famous, but she doesn't have a capybara drinking bubble tea in her
See,
logo.
see, no, she does not. Okay, to answer your question, this is an easy one for me, and probably a cop out, but not really. It's coffee, in all its shapes and forms. But here's kind of the way I like to think about coffee. If I'm drinking hot coffee, I want it black. And if I'm drinking cold coffee, I prefer, whether it's espresso or drip or whatever, some sweetener. I don't know why that is. If it's just that I grew up probably on, weirdly enough, on the West Coast. We call it sun tea, but really it's just sweet tea. It was like cheap. You put like the bags of Lipton into the jar with the sugar. You put it out in the sun all day, and then you brought it in, and that was like summertime tea. So I think that's why I like my cold coffees to be sweetened. But like right now at 8:36 at night, I'm drinking out of my never argue with someone John Brown would have shot mug. Yes, great beard game. I'm drinking just black drip. This is Drift Away, who won the 26 coffee roaster of the year, and I'm trying one of theirs. But one of my parents didn't drink caffeine, and one of my grandparents started me on coffee black in my late teens, and it was horrific. The worst, absolute worst thing you could drink, for me. But turns out sort of like beer, which is also tastes terrible. The latent masochist in me really liked drinking things that tasted terrible, and it just became a wonderful habit. And here we are, 30, pushing 30 years later, not really 30 years later, but 20 years later, 20 plus years later, and I drink it all through the day with a lot of love.
Well, I don't drink coffee.
That's
I
okay. I
will.
also drink Coca-Cola, Coke Zero. It's currently my crime, but
So I have not tried Coke Zero, and I feel like I need to because that's a slightly less unhealthy way to consume it.
yeah,
But
that's
I'm
what
also
my argument for myself. It's all the things I think the taste is competitive. It's not the same, but it's like to me, this is just my pitch for it. I like it better than Diet Coke. I think that something's missing in Diet Coke. I'm like, okay, that's not what I want to drink. But with Zero, it's close. So,
Diet Coke tastes like chemicals to me. I
yes.
mean, I suppose it's all chemicals,
But
but
there's no hiding it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I uh, I do drink espresso based drinks, mainly lattes, but
Okay.
I like to abide by former North Dakota Heidi Heitkamp's law, wherein unless it is 0 degrees or colder,
Cold
it has
coffee.
to be iced.
Got it. Okay.
I don't like hot
On a hot day.
lattes or ever.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I rarely have experienced below 0 degree weather, so that's just another way of saying I just don't drink hot drinks. But to
Understood.
make it, I mean, it's to get the quotation from Heidi Heitkamp in there because
Fair.
you
You've
know
succeeded.
I'm giving you all of my good quotations, so you can bring that one up too. Like for Street Fest or something, say, well, I have to have iced coffee at this because, as Heidi Heitkamp says, less than 0 degrees outside. She was from North Dakota.
She would
Um,
know.
so this question's been posed. So I should say my previous guest has a small coffee
Okay.
roastery in
Yeah.
Middletown, which I didn't know.
Okay.
And this enables me to continue to say, although we were good friends, I didn't know this, and to bring up the fact that I'm such a horrible friend to people that I forgot my own godson's name. Um,
I recall this.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, so that wasn't great. But the question,
But we all
do
make mistakes. It's. I'm sure you'll get to stay Godfather.
Well, he made the mistake. I mean, who would appoint me a godfather to a child? I mean,
Fair.
I know.
Fair.
Like when I tell people that, they're like, "What's wrong with him?" I mean,
The
clearly,
severe lapse in judgment. This is true.
drug addict. What's wrong with him? Um, so sweet tea is the devil's work,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay.
But it sounds like you're a sweet tea person.
I I lean that way, but like I won't do like extra sweet. But do you eat pineapple on pizza?
No.
Oh, really? See, I do. And now your listeners know. So I think there's a correlate. I think if you polled most people who drink sweet tea, they also put fruit on pizza. I bet you there's some delineation. But it's interesting that you don't like salt, but you don't put sweet on your pizza. That's curious.
I like mushrooms,
Yeah.
broccoli,
Okay.
black olives,
Yeah.
and occasionally cucumbers, but they have to be raw. They can't go in with the pizza. They have
You
to
get all mushified, right? Right. Okay.
so
That's fair.
and onions too. I mean, I guess that they have to be on there.
Okay. Okay.
So currently it
Yeah.
is
Sweet
Tom.
tea for me. Sweet tea for me. I would
Okay.
lean that way. I'll drink it both. If it's hot, okay. Here again. If it's hot, I'm drinking it black. If it's cold, I probably want it sweet. I think
Interesting.
that cold tea, you get that sort of tannic, more bitter, comes off the bottom, almost like a cold brew coffee, where you taste that. And I think I like kind of a rounder mouth feel, if you will.
Lost Dog in Shepherdstown. I know you're a Charleston City Council person, but
Yes.
Shepherdstown, Lost Dog. Wall of Teas, amazing. Go visit if you haven't. I have a habit of liking hibiscus
Okay.
in almost all the teas he makes, which make them uh, more bitter. Bitterer doesn't sound right. More bitter. So much so that when I've ordered them and the person behind me is like, "Oh, that looks good," Garth, who is the owner, would go so far as to say, "No,
Don't
that's
do it. It warms them off.
yeah, there's something wrong with him." Um, Also, I used to drink a tea that had valerian in it, and also you're the first person who has come on the podcast who does not have facial hair, by the way.
Really? So we've
Um,
broken out. Well, I did. I mean, I had scruff, but I knocked it off in deference to your audience.
yeah, well, I
It
mean,
wasn't like you though. It wasn't like it's been a couple of years since I had like real facial. I had a mustache earlier this year, but no like actual beardage.
well, when drinking anything with valerian in it, when you have facial hair, it bakes in the smell of valerian until
Ah,
you wash your face. And
sure.
valerian is not a good smell. So I'm still a straw fan based upon that. Because who wants to have a beard that smells like valerian?
Sure. And you just put some distance between yourself with a straw and solve
Yeah,
that problem.
yes.
Fair.
So that's how I've, gotten through life. That's my advice. Please share that with your children.
How old were you when you started the beard?
So we couldn't have facial hair at school.
Okay. But you wanted to.
Um, I don't really know, to be honest with you. Um, my dad never wore facial hair,
Okay.
and I only met one of my grandparents because the other one died when my mom was in college. Well, her dad, I should say. And he didn't have facial hair, but he also died when I was like 5, so I don't know. I worked for Senator Rockefeller for a summer, and I think we were told we couldn't have facial hair, or we
Yeah.
had to have full facial hair. We couldn't be unshaven. And that was shortly after high school. So I think it probably happened maybe when I was like 21 ish. And then it got to the point where I was just too lazy to want to shave.
Understood.
But I don't like the way my face looks.
Okay.
I mean, with or without facial hair.
Okay.
And I used to be a lot thinner. Like, I'm not quite ready for Dr. Nazardin's treatment. And I really only know who he is from like TikTok, and then I watch some of the shows, and it's just I can't. But
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I need to lose weight, which I'm aware of. But also, I think if I shave now, my face would look different than because I've not been clean shaven in probably at least 15 years.
So now you're afraid to know, is what you're saying.
Well, I
Right.
have an idea, and I don't like
Okay.
what I'm
Okay.
seeing. So, but then I'm also worried at this stage of my life, if I lose a fair amount of weight, like I'm going to look sunken in.
You could look gaunt. What if you looked gaunt? They say
Well,
it. Yeah, it takes years off.
then I would be perfectly fine, in
Yeah,
the Shetland Islands with my sheep,
fine.
um, and my stick.
Cardigan
And
and a stick and just watching the storms roll in. Beautiful.
it's funny you mentioned cardigans. This is embarrassing. And you're learning. See, this is why I'm so happy that I lost my race for the piddly little office that is state executive committee. Because let's be honest, I'm never going to run for anything else. But during that, I'm like, I have to say somewhat reasonable things because I'm running against True, a man who's 85 and who's been on the ballot since 1976,
Right.
but still who lives a very button up life. And I don't want to appear too weird, right?
Sure. Well, I'm not helping in that
Oh, no, you're fine.
arena.
Um, So, as a child and as a young adult, really probably up until I was about when my mom died, so I don't know what, like 30, I refused to wear a cardigan, so much so that I was given one for Christmas and I hid it as a
Okay.
kid. I don't know what it
Fair.
was. And then all of a sudden I had this like light bulb moment and I bought like 15 cardigans and they're all in my closet, and from time to time
You will deck out in one. Yeah.
that's my cardigan story.
Excellent.
Um, so we're now even, I think. We've had two sweet teas and two unsweet tea, and I'm an unsweet tea, so if I vote, we are unsweet tea.
Okay.
Um,
Fair.
but so my first guest was from Clarksburg, West Virginia, which is, I mean, basically just west. It's not really south of us. My second was from Charlestown. My third is from, well, he was born in Canada, but he lives in Maryland.
Okay.
So the guy from Clarksburg and you are the only people who are on the sweet tea end, but you're all the way from the
Yeah, I
Northwest.
don't really have a tea culture. It wasn't a thing for me. So I feel like I didn't have good guidance, and maybe I would have grown up better had I lived here my whole life. But
I'm not familiar with Sun Tea. Like you talking about it, I've heard about it, but that wasn't I don't
this
know.
was like my parents drank this religiously. It was like every day you got up, and this was like the first thing you did. Super. I don't know where it came from. Their parents are all coffee drinkers. I have no. I should actually probably find the origins of that particular habit. Um, but
Hmm.
that was my introduction to tea. Yeah, and then later there were some herbal teas and uh, honey and all sorts of fun things that happened. Garlic. We could go on and on. Tea has been in my life, but
Are you one for television?
yeah. As a kid, I wasn't, but I've been corrupted.
Have you seen Portlandia,
Oh, yes,
the
yes,
women and women first bookstore,
yes,
and the teas they brew that are basically like bark and asphalt
yes,
and like
yes,
placenta?
yes.
Just when I think of herbal tea, that's what comes to mind.
Well, I was thinking more. I was thinking less bark and probably more like not traditional teas. So like or not black teas, I should say, not your classic like black teas, but more of like a hibiscus tea or a jasmine tea or I guess some of those are greens, but uh, there used to be like lemon verbena. I'm sure they still are, but different plants that I don't often think non-caffeinated teas. There, I'm struggling. I finally got it out. So when I say herbal, what I really mean is non-caffeinated teas.
Well, and you have a very normal, well-adjusted thing that comes to your mind when you mention that, whereas I default to, you know, an exaggeration of,
Yes, a caricature of
yeah.
herbal tea. How dare you?
So I know. Um, I might tell my Portland story in a minute. I don't know. So we've established the tea,
Yes.
and it's time to have a couple more questions. And I was told that I asked too many boring questions.
Okay, you better try hard then.
Well, but as a boring person, I mean, I have to carry that along. So I'll ask a boring question and then a not boring
Oh,
question,
fair.
and maybe
Okay.
the boring won't be boring. But when you moved to Charlestown, did you imagine a scant 2 or 3 years later, you would be positioned in the circuitry of power for the county seat of Jefferson County?
No, I didn't. I didn't know it was the county seat. I I have been a fastidious voter throughout my life, but not a participant, not since I was a kid. I did some volunteer work in politics as a kid on the West Coast. Um, it was kind of a thing my parents wanted us to do, and then didn't pursue it thereafter. Just was a voter as soon as I could. But beyond that, I didn't volunteer. I was sort of the opposite of you in that way, and kind of I come from a background of small business owners, and I think there was always this animosity, if you will, between people who worked for a living and politicians who told them what to do. And somewhere along the line, I possibly adopted some of that, but no, I had no idea. But just as I've aged, it's gotten more and more important to be involved in the community where I'm living. When I was younger, I was really focused on my career, and I've been really lucky that my work has oftentimes been national, and it can be easy to think about things from way out here and not here, but here is actually where you live, and these are the people that are you interact with the most, that you rely on, that you build relationships with, that tie you to a place. And so maybe and I'm getting long-winded here, but maybe it was the act of like choosing a place to live on purpose. Obviously, I'd done that throughout my life and on a smaller scale, but when you uproot yourself and you come this far, you're doing this on purpose. And so then you have to be deliberate about building relationships and sort of injecting yourself into the community and getting out and meeting people and telling your story and hearing their story and connecting with them. And as I was just doing that here, I just started bumping into people, and one thing led to another, and somebody asked me, and I had the time, and here we are. No, I was not was not on my radar.
So it sounds like you did things in the logical order and became successful at it, whereas I did things at the illogical order and have not been successful at it. So that is,
Well, I think that I would push back on that and say that you are falling into the trap of, if I may, of equating some sort of career success as the only success. And it's a success, could be a success, but it's just a slice of life. It's not as if volunteerism or activism or politics or any dedication to something other than self, sort of career is sort of a more selfish aspiration. So I would push back on that. Yeah. I wish I had done more of this sooner. I wish I had a greater appreciation for my local community sooner, instead of waiting until I was 40.
Also, remember, I went to a Catholic school, so I'm full of self-guilt.
Laden with guilt. I'm so sorry for you.
Well, and it's odd because I grew up in a very liberal Presbyterian Episcopalian house, where the impression my parents were giving me of what Catholicism was prior to actually getting to a Catholic school was not. It was very antiquated.
Yes. Fair.
But I mean, I tell you, when we had those theology classes, it's like something clicked. I'm like, this is where I belong. The act of my birth was like the first sin, and my entire life is just full of sin
See?
and just self-loathing. I mean, it
You were
just
a prime candidate then. Did you did you go all the way and make the shift?
no.
Okay.
No, I have a very complicated relationship with Christianity, mainly because I think too many people use it for a vehicle to self medicate something rather than fix what they need to fix to be happy. It's not well thought out. We can talk about this another time when I'm slightly less exhausted. But
Fair.
I mean, I don't mind going to mass. I mean, I haven't been to mass since I was at school. I and this again to tell you how bizarre my life is. I guess people just walk around when they see me and think that I'm like horribly in need of something, because on a regular basis, I have ministers who come to me and say, I'd love you to come to service. Like, come see me at this time. Father Andy, who used to be at St. Agnes, every time I bumped into him, oh, come to service, come to service, come to
You
mass,
did.
come to mass.
You looked like a lost sheep. Yeah.
I've been invited just in this county to probably 7 different churches.
That was amazing.
I do have to say, though, Randy Tremba, who was the longtime Shepherdstown Presbyterian minister, also used to be at the Carneysville Presbyterian Church. My parents were one of his first marriages, and then my
That's
two
cool.
friends from college, he performed their wedding, and it was one of his last. So I just thought that that was kind of full circle. It made me feel old, too.
Fair. That is kind of neat, though, to have be on both ends of that arc. Yeah, for sure.
And he no longer he's retired, but he argues, and in fact, he has this amazing book that he let me, read in advance, where he argues that if he were still preaching or ministering, he would not use the Bible as a resource, which I find interesting. I also love the stories, and I did get in trouble for this with one of my good friends who's Catholic when I brought up historically that it is understood that when the Bible was copied by hand, a drunk monk probably dumped beer on a page of it or didn't like a certain word, so he just didn't include it. So that there have been subtle shifts in the Bible, and that was not well received.
No, no.
So, anyway, I've really digressed, but it's
In
time.
the long, unbroken line of biblical succession, that isn't actually possible, Leigh. No drunk monks, no mistakes, every word. And if you can't detect the sarcasm, for those of you who can't see me, that was sarcasm.
Well, I'm currently listening to a book, and it reminds me, I took Bible as literature at Shepherd with an amazing professor who was the subject of the story in the last episode when she and her class got locked in the classroom on Halloween. But I took Bible as literature, and am constantly reminded of when she said, well, that most of the monasteries and nunneries were just whorehouses. And, the nuns were sleeping with the nuns, and the monks were sleeping with the monks, and the monks were sleeping with the nuns, and the priests ran, prostitutes out of that. I mean, in some ways, that's bad because it's presumably sexual exploitation. But also, I guess it reinforces that the clergy are human and fallible.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're in dangerous territory now, but if you look at, the New Testament story, there's plenty of evidence that it goes back at least that far. So with the inclusion of, the less desirable elements of society, on the underemployed, the outcast, the sex workers. I mean, that's sort of the Jesus's dirty dozen, right? As the story goes. So you're probably not far. She and you, by extension, are probably not far off the mark. It's fascinating.
And we've talked about this before, and this sort of jumps over, but I have worked at the Charlestown Library now for about, I don't know, 3 years, and I would argue we are the only library in the county who is consistently acting as a front line for a lot of our unhoused homeless
Yeah.
and folks who are experiencing mental health concerns, because we are the only library that's really in a, urban, quote unquote,
Right in the
area.
metroplex. Yeah, yeah.
And although we have, phenomenal resource in community ministries, I mean, Brooke Grossman, everyone should walk over hot coals to get her whatever she needs because she's such a phenomenal director. And when she told me she was taking that job, I was so excited. She's doing so much great work.
The perfect person for that. I was at the, just to cut you off, I was at the ribbon cutting today for the new facility, the neighborhood facility over on Racetrack, behind the casino, and wonderful turnout. Just, can't say enough good things about that organization and what they're doing and what they're doing for an underserved segment, multiple underserved segments in our community, in the community at large, in the county community.
Absolutely. And I guess what I struggled with at the beginning, because this was sort of a new frontier for me,
Yeah.
was how do I, as an individual, help so many of these individuals who have problems that are such that one person, particularly of all people, me, can't, and fix is the wrong word, but can't help with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the number, and it doesn't happen so much anymore, but the number of comments that would pop up either on social media or indirectly about, well, I don't take my children to the Charlestown Library anymore because there are all of these homeless people around. And I would argue, using context clues, that some of the very people who say that are, of course, the first to show up on Sunday and, be very worshipful while at the same time condemning those who are
Yep.
struggling. So that took a turn. So let's go back to our second OC question.
Okay. Oh boy. See if I can go for two. Okay, let's go.
Um, and this one you will definitely get.
You still
Seth,
jinx me.
okay. Well, I've actually given you like evidence of this one in the past.
That
What is
implies
the
that I live.
holiday that Seth invented?
God, we've had this conversation.
We have. That's how I found out that you knew because I'm like,
Yes,
I think Nate's
I
a little.
watched the show, but things don't always stay there up here.
But that's a super important one.
Yeah, but still, if you had children, you'd know. Uh,
There's a Simpsons quotation for that, but I'll hold it.
I don't know. I don't remember. I know, and when you say it, then I'm going to say, of course.
So,
We had this conversation, and I still knew when we had the conversation, and now in this moment, I am.
so Seth's parents, one is Christian, I don't know what denomination, and one is Jewish.
Oh, this is. Oh, come on! I know this. Ah. Okay, keep going. Oh,
So he combined Hanukkah and Christmas and made Chrismica.
that's right.
And I have a holiday sweatshirt that has Chrismica on it. And I have to tell, and again, this is why I just love the fact I'm going out of his chair and I can just be more open than I have in the past. There's a very curmudgeonly man in Shepherdstown
Okay.
who was at a particular event where I saw this and never has a kind thing to say to most people, including especially me. And he saw the sweatshirt. He's like, "Oh, that's great." He's like, "Some way." He, I guess, thought it was a real thing that people celebrated, but he was just
Or
over the
okay.
moon
Okay.
about the sweatshirt that said Chrismica.
So
So,
not an OC fan, just really loved the concept, got the concept, and loved the concept.
yes,
Okay.
I don't think he also would have appreciated,
The origin.
well, or having an aluminum pole and an airing of grievances, um, once a year as
No.
well.
No. Somehow, I think not.
Well, 0 for 2,
0 for 2
but
is not good.
we'll work on it.
Okay.
And there, I think you're probably a little bit older than I am, but there are people of a certain generation who I encounter and who I will just randomly bring up the OC, and I'm always pleasantly surprised when someone reciprocates or at least acknowledges. So when I was wearing that, I sent a text to like 4 people with a picture of it, and you were one of them.
Yes.
And the other, who I know has already, she loves the OC because we talk about it all the time. It drives her husband crazy because he thinks it's trash television. Who's also a little bit older, so he may just not get it. But I was very excited because I'm like, oh, another person, the OC.
So, in my defense, I almost never rewatch things, and that is my excuse. Same thing with books. I have a hard time once I know. Although in this case, you could argue I didn't retain enough, and I should rewatch it. I have a hard time rewatching things, so I'm not one of those people who's like flipping through channels. Do people still do that? The non-cord cutters maybe, and like sees the OC and is like, you know what, I'm gonna watch it start to finish. I'm gonna start over. I have done that on a select few things, but it's unusual for me, and I think that's where, if my brain doesn't retain something like Chrismica, it's because I haven't watched it like 20 times. That's my excuse.
Well, it's available on streaming.
I
I have the
know.
DVDs.
I know. I have no excuse.
When it gets
My
cold
children
out,
are a bit young, though. It's going to be in its golden era when I decide to sit my kids down and I'm like, listen, this is the way TV used to be before everyone was on YouTube watching shorts. There used to be long form entertainment. This is a story that's going to go for years and years with no resolution. And you're going to love it. And you're going to grow up with these characters. They probably will stop watching at about 5 minutes in, but we can try.
We can solve that. Just put them down in front of the television and put Riverdale on,
There you go.
because that really has some suspension of, disbelief in it.
I remember watching
Um,
that.
well, so we'll workshop, and
Fair.
we'll. There, I have a book too I can lend you that's all about the OC.
Very good. Okay.
It's amazing.
I'll get up to snuff on some of these things.
Good. And I'm going to pitch that there should be a graphic novel version of the OC, and we'll see what we can do about that. Um, so you, this is maybe a little bit political, but I want to ask. So I grew up um, going to Charlestown several times a week because it was where Stuck in Alger Pharmacy was, Chu Chen's Chinese restaurant, the pet store. I'm talking about downtown.
Yeah.
And before my mom taught at the Job Corps, and then she worked at the assessor's office before she went back to teaching. So she worked in town before I was born. So for her, it was a common practice to go to Charlestown. And I'm not being critical in any way, but it's something that I've continually noticed. We seem to have businesses that come into town,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a lot of fanfare around them.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about not with the city, not with staff, nothing like that, but with sort of the larger citizen group. And then after about a month, it's like, oh, we forget that this is downtown, and we're going to go back to ordering on Amazon or going to Walmart. So, with your magic wand, what do we do about that?
Well, two things. And the first is less what we can do and more what I think is happening. And I think, without, hopefully, I don't go on too long of a detour, but one of the sort of side effects of private equity infiltrating almost any and every opportunity to extract incremental value from organizations of any kind, you are seeing sort of a resurgence or a renaissance of brick and mortar, of actual stores in cities again. And there was, if you look at like sort of Internet 1.0 into Internet 2.0, if you will, sort of 2005 to 2010 Internet 1.0, where Internet was widely available and fast enough that people could begin to consume things, and the delivery ecosystem started to support them. That really impacted that, and archaic taxation and cross-state regulation. Lack of nexus, I could go on and on. Those things really accelerated the demise of the sort of mom and pop brick and mortar shops that everyone sort of understood. This is how community and business works. You're going to go to school, you're going to grow up, you're going to get a job at one of these businesses that's stood the test of time in this town, that contributes to the local economy, and that circle's going to self-perpetuate. It's not a perfect system, but that was the system. And the internet comes along, and all of a sudden it was a race to the bottom. You're seeing sort of the dark underbelly of private equity is where is the edge? The internet is saturated. It's super competitive. The cost of acquisition is out of control, and trying to get eyeballs on product and differentiation is really, really hard. What's old is new again, and you're starting to see a brick and mortar resurgence. It's happening faster in larger municipalities, but certainly I think that bodes well, that maybe we'll see a 10, 15, 20-year cycle, depends on how things go, where people pivot back. And some of it is also sort of anti-establishment. You see kids grow up being like, I want to have something more tangible. I want to have an experience here locally. And this is where I'll move into my second point, which is that you sort of have to untrain your brain. If this thing is in your hand all the time, prompting you, supporting you, influencing you, listening to you, it's really, really tough for the Bushel and Peck's or the Ortegas or the Siblings Coffees or you name it, to compete with this thing that you tell it everything. Here's my daughter. Hey, your hopes and your dreams and your complaints, and Amazon is listening, and they will take great care of you. It'll be here tomorrow in a cardboard box that you'll have to recycle or burn. I'm a Prime member, guilty, but it's an unlearning. You have to be deliberate about this stuff, and you have to model it for your kids. You have to support these. It's great to say we want more local. We don't have any restaurants. We don't have any entertainment. But if you don't take your kids to Funtopia, if you don't go down to Sustain, if you don't go into Abolitionist Ale Works and buy local beer from a local establishment that employs locals here, they can't stay in business. It's basic math. So I'm not victim blaming here. Obviously, Amazon is easy, and the curse of Amazon is that a lot of local retailers don't have the pockets, and they're not going to invest in low turn inventory, that one item that you need once every 6 months. Whereas Amazon, economies of scale, they're going to sell 100,000 of them, so they inventory it.